Hello there, my name's Mike Talty. I work for Microsoft in the UK, and you can find me in a number of different ways. You can email me, it's mtalty@microsoft.com. You can find my website at mtalty.com. You can find me on Twitter at mtalty. This is one of a number of short tutorial videos on the Active Touch site about Microsoft's RIA technology, which is Silverlight, and specifically Silverlight 4 is the current version. What I wanted to look at here was how we can play a video with Silverlight. And I've put that in quotes because there's lots of different ways that we could actually do this, and we'll look at one or two here. In order to do it, I'm going to use a couple of tools, and I think probably exclusively here I will work in the Expression tools, Expression Studio 4, and use a couple of tools from that. We'll use Expression Blend briefly. Blend, if you haven't seen it, is the design tool for Silverlight applications. And we'll also use a tool called Encoder. Again, if you haven't seen this, Encoder is a tool that is for media encoding or transcoding. And it also has some magic features around some Silverlight bits that we'll take a look at. So if you need to get hold of these tools, if you don't have them already, Expression Studio is a product that you purchase, but there's a free trial version on the web. So you can go to http://expression studio 4 trial, and if you take that URL, let's just copy it here and pop into a browser, it'll redirect you out to the download center where you can download the whole trial version. It's a 60-day trial of Expression Studio 4 Ultimate. So you download that and have it for 60 days. For what we're doing here, that will give you Blend and it will give you Encoder. One thing to say about those two products, there's no free version of Expression Blend. There's a trial, but there's no free version. Expression Encoder actually has a free version. There are a few limitations in it, but there is a free version. So if at the end of this you actually like Expression Encoder, but for whatever reason you don't need the professional version, you can go back and have a look and download just Encoder on its own as a free tool. It's quite a useful tool for transcoding media, so just bear that in mind. So on my desktop here I have this videos folder, and there's a couple of videos in here. They're just sample videos, and so there's this wildlife one that ships with Windows. If we just go and preview that guy over there, it's just the wildlife video that comes with Windows. And if we click on this liquid one, it's a high definition showcase video that I got off the web a long time ago. You might notice that both of these things are WMV files. So why are they WMV files? The reason why I'm using WMV files here is nothing to do with Silverlight. Silverlight can play WMV, it can play H.264. However, the Expression Encoder tool that we're going to use can also cope with H.264 and WMV in various different formats, but if you've downloaded the trial or if you've got the free version of Encoder, then they don't support H.264. This is something to do with H.264 licensing that I don't really know the details of. But basically, I'm using the professional paid-for version of Encoder, which would deal with H.264, but I expect that you might have the trial version, which wouldn't deal with H.264, so sticking with a WMV is kind of safe from the point of view of I won't be doing something that you couldn't do. That's really the idea of it. So that's really why I've got WMV files there. Let's switch off that preview. So just two little videos. Let's say I want to play one of these in Silverlight. What would I do? Well, let's run up Expression Blend in the first instance. So I'm opening up Expression Blend 4. And just bear in mind, if the windows that you have on your screen are not the same as mine, you can always use this window menu to select which windows you want to see. You can see that I've got the Assets panel, Objects and Timeline, Projects, Properties and Tools currently displayed. And remember, you can always take these things and drag them around. If you don't like where they are, you can always drag them somewhere else. I'm just going to park mine somewhere up here if I can. Let's just see if I can pop that back up there at the top. So let's make a new project in here. We'll do File, New Project, and let's go for a Silverlight application. I think we can just go for Silverlight application here. Should be okay for what we're doing at the moment. And let's call this something like My Simple Video Player. And we'll click OK. It's just going into CTemp, and that's fine. And Blend will create that project for us, and we're building a sort of custom Silverlight application, if you like. Now, let's go and add into this project our video file. So let's go ahead over here and let's say, right, I want to add an existing item. So let's go ahead and add an existing item from my desktop, videos, and we've got the wildlife video. So let's open that, and that's kind of added in there. You can see that's there already. And then what we need is something to play it. So let me just take this area of the screen we've got over here. I'm just going to hit Control 0 to size that a little bit differently on the artboard. I'm just going to mark this out into a simple couple of rows for a grid. And then let's go to the media category on the assets panel over here and find, actually I don't want to drag the wildlife in quite like that. Let's just go and find ourselves a media element. Here's our media element here by just doing a search. And I'm just going to take one of those and draw it out onto the artboard over here. So this is a media element. And actually I've probably put a little bit more border around that than I'd like. So let me just drag that out to the edges there. Okay, great. Now one of the things of course I want to do on that media element, and the media element by the way plays video and audio, it plays MP3 and so on, is I want to find the source for it, and the source is going to be wildlife.wmv. So you can see there's wildlife.wmv. And I think if we just press F5 inside of the environment to run the application at that point, let's just press F5, run up in a little web server, then we're already playing the video. You know, we didn't really have to do anything. We created a media element, we pointed it at this thing, and you know, it plays. Kind of simple as that. The reason why it plays straight away is because we have a property set on it called autoplay. So if autoplay is set, then it plays automatically. And so let's stop the autoplay. So let's untick that and let's take a little bit more control. So let's go and add a few buttons onto here. So we'll just grab some buttons. We won't be very precious about the sizing of these, but let me just drag out a button here, and we'll just go and use Alt, and let's just hit the V key to select, and then use Alt and click on one of these things, which will create a second one, and then you can use Alt and click to create a third one. That'll probably do really. So let's just go to the first button here, hit the V key again to, if you hit the escape key and the V key, it gets you back into selection mode. Use F2 to change the text on this, so let's call this play. And let's go to the second button. Let's use the F2 key to call this one pause. And let's go to this third button. Let's say resume. And in fact, I'm just going to make these a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to select all three of them and just shrink them in a little bit. And then again, I'm going to use Alt and click on this one to make a fourth button. And let's just hit F2 on that again, and we'll call this one stop. So we hit some basic buttons. They're not very well laid out, but it doesn't really matter. Let's go to our play button here, and actually let me make sure that everything in my UI is appropriately named. One way you can do that so that you can program against things is you can just go to the Tools option and say Name Interactive Elements, and Blend will give all of these controls names so that you can program against them. So that's kind of nice. Let's go on to our button here, and let's go over to this Events tab over here, and let's go to the click event and just double click in there. And Blend will jump to the code for that button. And I'm just going to use the F4 key in order to just make the code more visible to you and hide some of the things around it. So here's what happens when we click the play button. And we're not going to be too clever about this. We should really be checking various states, but all I'm going to say is this.mediaElement.play. We should check that it's not already playing, but we'll not do that here. And let's go back to the XAML over here. Let's go to the pause button. Let me hit the F4 key to bring the tabs back in. Double click over here on the events for the click event, and we'll say this.mediaElement.pause. Again, we should be checking to see that we can do that. Let's go back to the design. Let's go to the resume button. Let's double click on its click event. Let's say this.mediaElement.resume, or rather .play again. And let's go back to the design again, click on the stop button, let's go to the click button, and let's say this.mediaElement.stop. So we've written some tiny little pieces of code. Let's press F5 again and run our little application. So it should pop up. It shouldn't be playing when it starts up this time. So here's our buttons, here's our video. Let's press play. Off it runs. Let's press pause. There it stops. Let's press resume, which is just play again actually. Let's press pause. Let's press resume. Let's press stop. Let's press play. You get the idea. Now, there are many things that you could now go on to do with our very basic video player here. Obviously you could make it look good, that's one thing you could do, but hanging off this MediaElement object are lots of different properties and events and methods that you can use to control your media. Now if you want to build a custom video player, this might be the right thing to do. However, what I want to do with the rest of this tutorial is show you an alternate way to get canned video players that somebody else already built for you, which might be an even easier way of going about things. So at this point I'll leave Expression Blend. So let's just close down Blend and we'll save things. Okay, so let's run up Expression Encoder. So this is Expression Encoder, and it'll ask me what kind of project I want to make, and the kind of project I want to make is a Silverlight project, so we'll just click there. There are other things you can do with Expression Encoder which we won't perhaps get into too much here, and the environment will open up. Let's just let that finish off opening up. Okay, so your environment may not look exactly like this. Once again, this is an environment that's quite configurable. You can drag and drop all these different tabs around into different locations, and you can control the visibility of these various tabs using the window menu. So if I use a tab that you don't see, you can always go to your window menu and find it. The first thing we want to do is bring in our video. So let's go and import. You can also drag and drop, but let's import. And we'll go for that wildlife video that's on the desktop. So just bring that in. And it takes a quick look at it, and then it displays it in the preview window up here. So you can take this head and you can move backwards and forwards and have a look at the video across. It's only 30 seconds long, this video. And normally what I do is I just set this to be fit to screen so you can actually see what's going on in there. I'm actually working at a slightly low resolution here, so it's a little bit tricky for me. We've got our video in there. Now there's an option to transcode this video, to change its size, to change its format. I don't want to do any of that right now. I want to go to the presets over here, and for this video, so with this video selected, I want to double click Apply Source Encoding Settings. That means don't transcode it, just pass it through, and you notice the size just changed, but that's okay, we'll just fit it back again. Now what I want to do is spit out a Silverlight player from this, so I go over to my template section, and there's a whole bunch of Silverlight players that I could use. So there's a whole bunch of different Silverlight players that I could use in order to do this. So I can take a look at some of these, so as I click on one of these, there's one kind of player, here's another kind of player, and these are actually just templates. You can even write your own templates, so they all kind of work the same way, but they're just kind of templates. I've got some options on this template that I can see down here. What do I want to do on load? Well, let's show the video paused. And some other options that I've got down here. What do I want to do about stretching the video? Let's do stretch distorted. So we'll allow it to stretch to fill the whole player. I'm quite happy with that. Let's go and do that. So that should fill the whole screen space, I think. And then the only other thing I might want to do here is I might want to have, for instance, something like a thumbnail for the video. So let's just see where I find the thumbnail on that. I'm not sure if it's on metadata or not. Let me just check. Oh no, you can see the metadata has been brought in, so that's fine. By the way, if any of these sections get too big as you're looking at things, you can always collapse them down. Let me just see if I can find where my my thumbnail goes. Not there, not there. Sorry, it's on the output tab. My mistake. So I want a thumbnail. Let's say my thumbnail should be this picture of some seals here. So I just click on custom and that will give me a thumbnail at that particular time. You can see the marker's been added to the timeline. Where do I want it to go? I'm going to put it into C, temp, my Silverlight video, preview it in a browser, and I'll ask it to put each job into a separate folder. Okay, so let's go and click encode. And there shouldn't be any encoding because we're just passing the video straight through. Let's click that down. And so straight away what we should get is a video player. So you can see here we've got a video player. You can see we've got controls. Let me just mute it. So we've got volume control and so on. I can pause. I can play. I can pause. I can go full screen. I can escape out to go back to non-full screen. I think I can double click as well to go full screen and escape back out to that. What else can we do here? Well, some of the options that we don't have available to us just yet. I've started the video up again. But one of the things we can do, those are obviously just our volume buttons there. We show the player in a separate window, so we can just run a bit of script effectively to kick that out into a separate window. Let simply get rid of that one. And then interestingly, which might be useful to users, is I could make the player available offline. So let's click that. And what it does is it uses some local storage space with Silverlight. It's going to need 26 megs, it looks like, for this video. So let's click yes. It downloads it, installs a local player, and now I have a local player for that particular video, and I can play it from my local machine. So I can travel on a train or something and watch that. Let's remove that local player. We're back to the main player over here. So we just got a ton of functionality, a whole pre-built Silverlight player with a ton of functionality by doing absolutely nothing. You know, it might take you, I don't know, I think if I had to try and write that player, it would take me 2 to 3 weeks to try and write that player, and it probably wouldn't work as well as it does here. And we get it for free. So it's really quite powerful that we get that for free. Let's just close it down for a second. And let's just pop to the folder where the outputs went. So I'm just going to pop to ctemp my Silverlight video. And in this folder here, you can see that what we actually got emitted was some HTML, a few Silverlight zap files, and the video. So we're not doing anything fancy around streaming this video or anything. It's just simply played off the web server. And if you wanted to host this on your own web server, you could host this file just as it is. Or you could go and have a look inside it. Let's open it up with Notepad. There'll be an object tag in here somewhere. Let's just find one. Somewhere here. And so probably what you'd be doing is copying out this object tag and putting it into your own page for hosting. So you could work that way as well if you wanted to. So that's fine. We could reuse it. So very simple outputs from this. So let's take a look at something else. Let's add in a second video. So let's go and import and bring in my second video here. So we'll just bring that in. And we're just taking a quick look at that. Let's go to the presets again and make sure we double click to apply the source encoding settings, which we've done over there. Let's go to the output tab and make sure it has a custom frame on it for a thumbnail. Let's find a thumbnail. It's a sort of surfing video, so let's find some kind of surfing action here. That'll do. And let's go for that as the custom thumbnail. And let's go back over and just select that. So we've now got those two videos with the two different thumbnails in there. I think that should be fine. I don't think there's much metadata around this particular video, but I could add metadata to it if I wanted to. And so once again, let's just go ahead and encode. And now we've got two files, but they don't need encoding. Let's let that spit out. Let me just pause that for a second. Having added two files into that, what we get is support over here for showing playlists. So you can see here's the playlist. There's no metadata on this as we saw. But I can click and go over to that video now and start playing that video. Let's just kill the audio on that for a second. Or I can go back to my playlist again and click on the other video and start playing that one. So not only have we got support for a single video here, we actually get whole support for playlists, again for free. We didn't have to do anything to make this work. It just works naturally for free out of the templates that are built in. Now imagine I want to add some captions onto my video, so I could go to this wildlife video here, and down here we've got a section called script commands. This allows you to put in captions. So for instance, what I could do is import captions, and we support a whole bunch of different file formats for importing captions. Or you can manually build your own captions here. So I can just use this plus command. Let's go and move around a little bit on the video, and let's say I'll have a caption here that says horses, and we'll move somewhere else. Perhaps let's go down here somewhere. Let's add another caption. We'll have birds, and we'll move perhaps somewhere down here. More birds. Where are the seals? Okay, we'll have another caption there for seals, and so on. You get the idea. And so once again, let's just go encode that on that first video. You can see here's my captions appearing above or below the... I don't know how clear that'll come out on the recording, but I've got my captions down there for seals and so on. So I can put captions onto these videos again very easily. I don't have to do anything. I just have to add those in, and captions appear on top of those things very, very simply. I can also go and put markers into the video, so we can have different markers in the video. So perhaps what I could do is go to my second video, the liquid video up here, and let's go back up to here, and let's have a let's go there, and let's add a marker at this point. And this might be end of wave, something like that. It's a first marker, and we'll have thumbnails on all our markers. And then we'll go along a little bit. We'll have a marker somewhere here. Let's say, let's trundle down the video stream a little bit, and let's just say interview, something like that. That can be a separate marker there. And let's just find one more. I don't know what else is in here. Let's add another marker there. Let's call this surfers. Okay, so I've got 3 markers now in there. Let's re-encode. That was on my second video, of course. And let's jump over to that second video, so we'll stop this one playing. Let's go into that second video. And what we should be able to see is that if I just go over to this chapters list, you can see here's my chapters within this video. There's the interview. I can jump straight to that. There's my surfers. I can jump straight to that and carry on playing. Jump to the interview.
Surrounding you and
jump to the end of the waves. Carry on playing. So I can build chapters in here very, very easily. It doesn't cost me anything. It's easy to do. It's already built into the various templates, just the same way as playing multiple videos, so I can jump around between chapters in this single video. Again, pretty powerful. You don't have to write any code. It's already done for you. And then the last thing perhaps to show here is you can also add overlays. So if you go onto this Enhance tab over here, you can add visual or audio overlays. So we'll look at a visual overlay, and you can add things as simple as a bitmap, for instance. So let's go and say, let's go to our first video here, wildlife video. Let's go to add overlay here. We'll add an overlay, and let's go select it. So I'll go out to a folder that I've got with some images in. Let me just find maybe this image here, and if I just size down this area of the screen so we can see what we're doing. So you can see now I've added this overlay here at a particular point in time, so I can just go and maneuver that. Let's put it up here. Let's size it slightly differently. There's my overlay. How long do I want it on the screen for? So we can decide, how long does that need to be on the screen for. Let's start at, say, 3 seconds, and let's end at, say, 10 seconds, something like that. We can fade it in for a period, so we could fade it in for a second, I think, and fade it out for a second, so we can control fading on there as well. And you'll see that if I slide down here on the timeline, that's where my overlay is going to be in. I can apply transparency to that, so I can just make it so it's a little bit transparent, and that overlay is going to be on there now. So if I go and encode, now you notice that what's happening now is we're actually encoding because we have to change the video at this point. So I'll snip my screen recording and come back when that's done. Okay, so that finished, and if I just switch back over to my browser, it's launched up, and we can play the video again. Let me kill the sound. And somewhere into this, about 2 seconds, you can see here comes my overlays, fades in. It's transparent, as you can see, and then I presume it's going to fade back out as it did just there. So we can use overlays as things like images. We could also overlay with things like videos. So for instance, if we go back over here, and perhaps what I'll do is I'll change my project a little bit. Let me take away the second video, the liquid video. Let's just get rid of that. And then let's go back to our overlay up here. And we'll take that overlay, and instead of using this JPEG file, let's just go and find my other video. So we go to desktop, we go to videos, we go to liquid. Let's open that, and once again we just have to move it a little bit. So let's just the tool's preserved all the timings and so on. So let's just do a transparent overlay of that video up there at the top. Maybe we'll just put it sort of like so. It's trying to preserve the aspect ratio. Maybe make it small. Let's put it up there. And so once again, we could encode with that. So let's go ahead and encode. This will take a little bit of time, so I'll snip my screen recording. Let's just set it going. Off it goes and encodes. That time will soon come down. Let me snip the recording. We'll come back and have a look at it. Okay, and so that transcode is now finished. And so once again, I can go back to my web browser, have a look at the video. Kind of expecting the other video to pop up here at the top. You can see there's my transparent overlay coming in, fading in. And then we should see it go ahead and fade out again. So we can overlay video pretty easily into that as well. It's quite an easy thing for us to do. And the other thing that I can overlay on here, which is quite unusual in a way, is actually a piece of XAML based markup. So over here in my favorite XAML style notepad tool, which is a tool called KZAML, I've got a piece of XAML markup. So let's just go over there. And you can see that what this is just a canvas with some text on it with a certain font, And then I've got a little animation, which is just animating a gradient backwards and forwards. So that's just to say the word overlay up there. So let's take this piece of XAML here. Let's just copy it. Let's go to Notepad here and paste it. Let's just do File, Save As, go to the desktop. Let's call this overlay.xaml. Just make sure we change that to all files. And save that on the desktop. And then let's go back to Expression Encoder over here. And let's change our overlay. And let's go to the desktop and find overlay.xaml and open that up. And let's move overlay.xaml up here again and maybe make it a little bit bigger. I don't know if I've got the sizing of the thing right, but I'll not worry about that too much right now. Let's see if we can lose the aspect ratio and fix it that way. I'm not going to fix my sizing correctly, but you can see it's there. And let's just go re-encode with that, which will probably again take us a little bit of time. So I'll snip the video whilst it encodes that. Okay, so that's finished again, and if we just pop back over here and have a look at it on the video, I'm not sure this is going to play my animation. Let's just scroll back and play. But hopefully I get my XAML-based overlay. So you can see here's my overlay coming in. That canvas that I put it on had a semi-transparent white background. I'm not sure that my animation is actually playing in there. I kind of hoped it would, but maybe we don't play animations on these. But you get the idea as how I can overlay some XAML content onto here as well. Okay, so let's shut that back down. So we have the capability to overlay pictures, video, or XAML-based content on there. We can also do audio overlays if you wanted to do that. And the one thing we haven't touched on here at all, and I'm not going to, is around the idea of transcoding. We've been passing our videos through largely, but you can also transcode them. So there's a whole range of options around the VC1 codec. If you've got the professional version installed, you'll also get the H.264 codec and all different options around that. And also for IIS smooth streaming, which is a way of delivering multiple different bit rates of video over to a player that can intelligently switch between them depending on CPU and bandwidth availability. So we've not talked about transcoding here. Generally, we've just been passing through using this source encoding settings in order to get our videos thrown through, and then just a Silverlight player generated for us. And you've seen how many templates there are and how we can very quickly get to a Silverlight player built for us. So coming back to kind of where we started really, let's just pop down to the desktop. We said we'd look at how we could play a video with Silverlight. We looked at two options and we only spent a short period of time on the first one, which was we can hand crank and write our own video player. Sometimes that's the right thing to do depending on how much control you need. But we didn't spend a long time on it here because we went into Encoder. We said that there's a paid for version of that, there's a free version of that. You can get the trial from that link. And Encoder is really useful, as you've seen, for throwing out Silverlight based players. You can have different templates, you could even build your own. You get support for multiple video playlists, you get support for chapters, you get support for markers, you get support for captions, you get limited support for overlay in terms of video pictures and XAML. So there's lots of stuff that you can do just by using the Encoder tool without even having to know anything about Silverlight. And that's kind of why we spent some time here, because I think there's lots of articles you'll find on the web about how to write your own video player, unless you'll find out there about how Encoder can already do a huge chunk of this work for you. So, hope you found that useful, and remember you can contact me at these addresses up here, and perhaps we'll catch you in the future either at an in-person event or another one of these tutorials.